I want to share a story with you all. A story that still makes my stomach churn and
Bıyıklı.
my heart ache, even after all this time. It's about how I caught my wife cheating. And how the truth I uncovered was far, far worse than I could have ever imagined. It began subtly, as these things often do. Little changes that you dismiss at first, explaining them away with rationalizations and the unwavering trust you have in someone you love. My wife, Sarah, had always been a meticulous planner, a creature of habit. Our evenings were predictable, comforting. Dinner at 7, a show we watched together, then an hour or so of reading before bed. It was our routine, our rhythm. We had built our life around these small, shared moments, moments that had once felt so precious and enduring. Then, the rhythm started to faltering. She'd be late coming home from work, often with vague excuses about extra meetings or unexpected deadlines that never seemed to quite add up. Her phone, once left casually on the kitchen counter, an open book, was now a constant companion, face down, screen hidden from view, as if guarding a secret. She'd take it with her to the bathroom, even when just stepping out for a moment, a habit so out of character it screamed alarm bells in my subconscious. I tried not to notice, or rather, I tried to convince myself I wasn't noticing. I told myself I was being overly sensitive, that work was simply getting more demanding for her. But the whispers in my mind grew louder, becoming an insistent, gnawing doubt that eroded my peace of mind. One evening, she came home particularly late. Her hair was slightly disheveled, not in the charming, wind-blown way, but as if she'd been hurrying, perhaps from a clandestine encounter. There was a faint, unfamiliar scent on her clothes, something floral and sweet, a perfume distinctly not her usual delicate jasmine, but something much heavier, more exotic. When I asked about her day, hoping for some normal conversation, she was terse, irritable, her responses clipped and defensive. She snapped at me when I innocently offered to make her a comforting cup of tea, a gesture that had always been met with gratitude before. That night, sleep wouldn't come. My mind raced, replaying every odd moment, every subtle shift in her behavior, piecing together a terrifying mosaic of suspicion. I tossed and turned, the soft glow of the digital clock on my bedside table, mocking the relentless passage of time. The next morning, I woke up with a cold dread settled deep in my chest, a heavy stone that pressed down on my very soul. I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, and made my hands tremble, that something was terribly wrong. I didn't want to believe it. Every fiber of my being resisted the horrible truth, staring me in the face. But I couldn't ignore the accumulating evidence any longer, the weight of which was becoming unbearable. The trust I had so freely given was being irrevocably shattered. That day, I started my own investigation. A desperate, heart-wrenching attempt to either confirm my worst fears or, God willing, dispel them completely and restore some semblance of our life. It felt clandestine, almost shameful, engaging in such a secret pursuit against the woman I loved. But I felt I had no choice. The need for answers was a primal urge. I started by checking her phone bill online. It was a shared account, so I had full access, a fact I now felt guilty for exploiting, yet compelled to do so. What I found sent a jolt of ice through my veins, freezing me in place. There were numerous calls to an unknown number, late at night, often stretching into the early hours of the morning and during hours. She was supposedly diligently at work, diligently performing her professional duties. The frequency was alarming. This wasn't a casual acquaintance, a work colleague, or a distant relative. This was something sustained, something hidden, something deeply intimate. My heart pounded erratically in my chest as I meticulously wrote down the number, my hand shaking slightly. I considered calling it, confronting the mystery on the other end, but hesitated. What would I say? What kind of devastating truth might I uncover with a single phone call? What if it was innocent? An elaborate misunderstanding, and I was just being paranoid, destroying our relationship with my unfounded suspicions? The next step was even harder. A decision that tore at my conscience. I decided to follow her. It felt like something out of a bad movie. A pathetic cliché, but I was desperate for concrete answers, for undeniable proof that would either confirm or deny my growing despair. I took a day off work, fabricating a story about a client meeting out of town. A necessary lie to facilitate my covert surveillance. The truth was, I was parked down the street from our house. A pit forming in my stomach, watching, waiting, my breath held captive in my lungs. The morning passed excruciatingly slowly, each minute, stretching into an eternity, filled with a suffocating mix of fear and anticipation. Then, finally, she emerged. She was dressed meticulously, in a stylish dress I hadn't seen her wear in a while. A dress she reserved for special occasions, and her hair was perfectly styled. Her makeup flawlessly applied, as if preparing for a significant rendezvous. She got into her car and drove off with an air of purpose. I waited a few agonizing minutes, ensuring I wouldn't be detected. Then cautiously followed, keeping a safe distance, my eyes glued to her vehicle. She drove to a part of town I didn't recognize well, a newer development with a mix of modern apartments and sleek townhouses. An area we had no reason to visit together. She pulled into a parking lot, and my breath hitched, caught in my throat. A man was waiting there. He was tall, with dark hair, and he smiled broadly, a warm, knowing smile, as she approached him. They embraced, a long, lingering hug that spoke volumes, far too intimate for just friends. Far too tender for a mere acquaintance. Then, they walked into one of the apartment buildings, hand in hand. Their bodies close, their movements synchronized, a picture of illicit romance. My world crumbled completely in that moment, shattering into a million irreparable pieces. The air left my lungs, leaving me gasping for breath and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead, my body reacting to the profound shock. I sat there, numb, feeling like an observer to my own tragedy. Watching the building that now housed my wife and another man, a stranger who had stolen her affection. The tears came then, hot and stinging, blurring my vision and running unchecked down my cheeks. My chest ached with a pain so profound it felt physical, a crushing weight that threatened to suffocate me. I wanted to storm in there, to confront them, to scream at the top of my lungs, to demand answers, to unleash the torrent of anger and agony. I felt, but I was frozen, paralyzed by the raw, unbearable agony of betrayal. The scene replayed in my mind, an endless, tortuous loop, solidifying the devastating reality. I drove home, the world a blur outside my window. The once familiar streets now alien and hostile. The house felt empty, hollow, stripped of its warmth and comfort. Every object, every photograph of us together, seemed to mock me with memories of a love that was now, clearly, unequivocally, a lie, a cruel deception. I spent the rest of the day in a haze of grief and anger, trying desperately to make sense of what I had seen, trying to reconcile the woman I thought I knew with the woman who had just walked into that apartment building with another man. The questions swirled, relentless and agonizing. Later that evening, she came home, acting as if nothing was amiss. Her composure unnervingly calm, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. She asked about my day, her voice light, innocent. A performance that felt like a knife twisting in my gut.